Good afternoon, guys. This is Dr. Narayani hereby to teach Biomedical Sciences BMS 110. From that, today we are going to learn about Unit 2, Microbial Physiology and Pathogenicity. Under this microbial physiology, we are going to study three topics. One is bacterial genetics and pathogenicity, and the next one is clinical manifestations. Then principles of diagnostic technique. So these three topics we are going to learn today. Let us see one by one. Next, what is microbial physiology? You want to know? It is defined as the study of how microbial cell structures, growth and metabolism function in living organisms. You know what all are the microbes? Is it? You see bacteria, virus, fungi, algae. These all are the microorganisms in which you have studied in the earlier class. And about these microorganisms, how it will be, how their cell structure, how it will grow, it will undergo for growth and development, how the metabolism happens in their body. That is what the study of how microbial cell structures, growth and metabolism function in living organism is called as microbial physiology. In addition to the cell structure, growth and metabolism, the microorganism when enters into the host, like for example, if it enters into human beings, what happens? What is the process happens between interactions between these microorganisms and the host takes place? That's what microbial physiology. Then pathogenicity. Pathogenicity means the property of causing disease is called as pathogenicity, while this property of causing disease is happened or made by the infectious agent. That infectious agent is called as what? Pathogen. You can see the definition here. A pathogen or infectious agent is a biological agent that causes disease or illness to its host. Host means if bacteria enters into human being is called as host. Okay, bacteria is called as pathogen. So this property of causing disease is called as what? Pathogenicity. Next, we are entering into the topic bacterial genetics. Before that, you want to know what is meant by bacteria. I already told what are the microorganisms. I hope you know very well. Bacteria, because we are living with that microorganisms. We are surrounded by microorganisms. So what is meant by bacteria? It is a microscopic organism, single-celled or unicellular organism that live almost everywhere. That's why you see in this corona period, we are just washing our hand, we are using hand sanitizer. Why? Because bacteria, there may be possibilities to transfer this bacteria or virus or microorganisms to the body by means of hands. Okay, so it lives almost everywhere. Okay, bacterial genetics means what? It is the subfield of genetics devoted to the study of bacteria. That means you know what is genetics. Genetics means the study of gene in which this gene acts as a genetic material that it transfers hereditary character from our parents to the offspring. We are having the characters in which it belongs to our parents' characters. So, like same, bacteria also having genes, and these genes were transferred from parents to the offspring. That's what we are going to see in the next point. Like other organisms, bacteria also breed through and maintain their characteristics from generation to generation. That is what parents to offspring. And at the same time, it exhibits variations in particular properties in a small proportion of their protein or cell. It involves two processes. That means the transfer of genetic material involved two processes. One is transformation and another one is conjugation. By this process only, the scientists confirmed that there is a genetic material in the bacteria and it is transferring from one generation to the next generation. Let us see how. Next, transformation. As I said that there were two processes. One is transformation and another one is conjugation. Transformation in bacteria was first observed in 1928 by Frederick Griffith, and later it was examined at molecular level by Oswald Avery and his colleagues, who used the process to demonstrate that DNA was the genetic material of bacteria. You see, many research is going on still now. What is the genetic material for coronavirus? What is the genetic material for recently arising viruses, bacteria? Still now, there is a demonstration is going on, where the first demonstration for confirming the genetic material in bacteria is transformation, and it was done by Griffith. That's why it is called as Griffith experiment. And he confirmed that there is one material which is transferring from one generation to the next generation in DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Fine. Let us see the experiments what he did. Next, he selected two strains, two microorganisms, two bacteria. One is non-virulent. Non-virulent means it doesn't cause disease. Another one is virulent, where it causes diseases. So at first he injected this non-virulent, that is rough strain, to the mouse, where this mouse lives. Then he injected smooth strain, that is virulent bacteria. Virulent bacteria means disease causing bacteria. When he injected smooth strain to the mouse, this mouse gets died. Then in these two tests, he confirmed that something is going on from one mouse. Something is going on from bacteria to the host. What is that? So he go for further analysis. Next, he injected heat-killed smooth strain. You see, smooth strain means disease-causing bacteria. So he used to prepare heat-killed smooth strain. He injected that heat-killed smooth strain to the mouse. Surprisingly, this mouse. So he goes for another analysis. He mixed this rough strain and heat-killed smooth strain. You see, heat-killed smooth strain is it doesn't cause a disease. But then it mixed with rough strain. Rough strain also doesn't cause a disease. But when he mixed this rough strain and heat-killed smooth strain, unexpectedly this mouse gets died. So he comes to conclusion that something is going from bacteria to mouse. What is that? And he identified that is a genetic material called DNA in bacteria. So by transformation, Griffith has confirmed that DNA is a genetic material in bacteria. Okay. Next, second one, conjugation. Bacterial conjugation is the transfer of genetic material. Here, instead of DNA, he identified another genetic material called plasmid between bacterial cells by cell-to-cell contact. Or you can see sexual contact, like sexual contact, cell-to-cell contact. There is a connection between two cells by the formation of a bridge-like a tube. This was discovered in 1946 by Joshua Lederberg and Edward Chatham. Okay, so let us see what is the definition again. Conjugation is a mechanism of horizontal gene transfer as transformation and transduction, although these two mechanisms do not use physical contact. You see, transformation, we didn't see there is a physical contact. Just the genetic material transfer from pathogen to host. Bacterial conjugation is often regarded as the bacterial equivalent of sexual reproduction or mating, since it involves the exchange of genetic material. You can see, you can confirm through this diagram. Next, see this picture. First bacteria, and the right side there is the second bacteria. Okay. In the first bacteria, in addition to DNA, there is another genetic material called plasmid. It is an extra chromosomal material. This in the second step, there is a link, there is an interaction between first bacteria and the second bacteria by the formation of horizontal tube, or you can say conjugation tube. Through this tube, this plasmid from first bacteria moves to the second bacteria, while it also present in the first bacteria and the second bacteria. So now you see the second bacteria also consists of plasmid. So he confirms the genetic material. Another genetic material present in bacteria is what? Plasmid. This is an extra chromosome. Okay. Fine. Next, pathogenicity. So the first topic we are seeing is bacterial genetics and pathogenicity. Where bacterial genetics, I hope you know very well now. It is what is the genetic material in bacteria? It was identified by two scientists. So these two scientists confirmed the genetic material as DNA and plasmid by transformation and conjugation. Now, second thing is pathogenicity. How the bacterial mechanism of the pathogenicity or the microorganism causes a disease in the host. Now we can consider this microorganism as a pathogen. This pathogenicity means causing disease, right? So this pathogen or bacteria, how it causes disease in the living organisms, maybe human beings or maybe plants or maybe animals, whatever it is, that is living organisms. Okay, you see. First, we can start from portals of entry. How at all it enters to the living being? Number one, through mucous membranes. Number two, through respiratory tract. Number three, gastrointestinal tract, because our intestine consists of many useful bacteria and also harmful bacteria. Then genito-urinary tract. Then conjunctiva, skin, and other parental roots like mouth, maybe hand, other roots. So through this manner, the bacteria is getting enter into the host. So now it enters. You see, penetration or evasion of host defenses. That is, it enter into the host. Maybe it may be in the form of capsules. It may be in the form of or it infects by means of cell wall components, or it infects by means of enzyme production. Okay. Then it damages the host cells. Third step is damaging. At first, it is selecting the portals. Number two, penetration. Number three, damaging the host cells. How at all it is damaging? By direct damage. Directly, this bacteria go and bind with the immune cells and starts producing damage to the cells. Number two, by means of toxins production, like exotoxins or endotoxins. Exo means outer side, endo means inner side. Then hypersensitivity. Hypersensitivity is the reaction of antigen and antibody. Like if this microorganisms enters into the body, it acts as an antigen our body which acts against this antigen, cells are called as antibodies. So this antigen and antibodies get reacted and results in hypersensitivity reactions like allergy, cause allergy, etc. Okay, and in between the first entry and penetration, there is a two things. One is number of invading microbes, that is or the disease causing of disease depends upon the number of microbes. If one or two bacteria enters into the body, for example, I'm saying, our body is having natural immunity. Our body have the capacity to fight against all the pathogens. So if one or two enter into our body naturally fight it and it kill the microorganism, it kill the pathogen. So there will be no disease. But if it is increased in number, then it results in some diseases. What is adherence? It go and bind, attach. For example, bacteria go and attach to the T cells, immune cells. Immediately our immune cells starts decreasing. So there is the increase in this increase in symptoms, disease causing symptoms. So this is what pathogenicity of microbes or bacterial pathogenicity in living organisms. Fine. Next, clinical manifestations. What all are the manifestations happened by bacteria in let us see here human beings, for example, or it can be animals. Normally, if one bacteria enter into the body, there may be changes occurs in the body. What all are they? Maybe temperature rises or decreases, blood pressure rises or decreases. There may be rashes in the skin. So clinical manifestations means it is an objective indication or expression of diseases by means of several signs and symptoms. Okay, by means of several signs. For example, I'm saying tuberculosis, TB, is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. This tuberculosis, if enters into the body, we don't know what happens in our body. Without knowing, we may go experience continuous cough, continuous fever for more than 1 month. So why then we will feel what happened to us? Why we are having cough for more than 1 month? Why we didn't get cure? We can go and test our blood or we can go and test our saliva. If we go for clinical diagnosis, then it results in some bacterial disease. So, clinical manifestation results in indication or expression of diseases by means of signs and symptoms. Okay, I have added some example notes here. For example, next. Okay, before that, we want to know what is bacterial infection. Infection means what? We know what is meant by bacteria. Bacteria is a microscopic single-celled organism. And also we know what is meant by pathogen, because all microorganisms are not a pathogen, where the bacteria which is causing diseases, that is called as what? Pathogen. Okay? Or microorganism which causes diseases, that is called as what? Pathogen. Because there were some useful bacteria also in our body. Okay. Now let us enter into the topic. What is bacterial infection? A bacterial infection is the proliferation of the harmful strain of bacteria inside the body, where this bacteria can infect any area of the body. For example, if this bacteria is present in the cause disease in mouth, then our mouth gets infected. For example, if this bacteria infect our skin, then rashes will be there. Some specific symptoms will be there. Here I have added some examples like pneumonia, fever, meningitis, and food poisoning or just a illness caused by harmful bacteria. Let us see some examples in addition to this. Next, bacterial skin infections. So these are all clinical manifestations we are studying. Bacterial skin infections are usually caused by gram-positive Staphylococcus and Streptococcus are other organisms, where common bacterial skin infections include number 1, cellulitis. Cellulitis causes a painful red infection which is usually worn to touch. Okay? This occurs most often on the legs, but it can appear anywhere on the body. We don't know, sometimes we will see some red color rashes in our legs. We may think that it may be the rashes by means of a mosquito bite or ant bite, but maybe it may be because of cellulitis, because of this bacteria may be transferred from our cloth. Then folliculitis. Folliculitis is an infection of the hair follicles that causes red swollen bumps that look like pimples. Okay, some may experience with pimple under the armpit, or they may have these pimples in the hair in the head. These are bacterial infection. Then impetigo, which causes oozing sores, usually in preschool aged children. I mean, up like 8th standard, 8th, 9th, or the age between 13 to 15 aged children, they may experience with yellow color pimples, right? Oozing sore, that is called. That is because of impetigo bacterial infection. Then boils are deep skin infections that start in their hair follicles. So these all are some skin infections. So by these symptoms, we can identify that there is a manifestation of some bacteria in our body. Okay. Next, you can observe the picture here. Cellulitis. You see, in the legs there is a red color rashes. Then boil. Then impetigo. You see, this impetigo may be red color or all pink color or also yellow color. Okay. Then folliculitis. Next, foodborne bacterial infection. So when there may be bacterial infections by food, it may result in nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, chills, and abdominal pain. But we don't know which. This is because of which bacteria. So we can go for further testing. How this foodborne bacterial infection occurs in our body means unsanitary food preparation and handling that encourage bacterial. Okay. So what all are the bacteria that cause food poisoning? I have added here 3 examples. For example, Campylobacter jejuni, which is the diarrheal, which causes diarrheal illness, often accompanied by cramps and fever. Clostridium botulinum. You see, we are eating the packed processed foods, right? This packed or processed foods act as a carrier agent of this Clostridium botulinum, because this Clostridium botulinum may mostly present in the oily packed food, which is potentially life-threatening bacterium that produces powerful neurotoxins. Then E. coli, Escherichia coli, is a diarrheal illness that causes diarrheal illness that may be accompanied by nausea, vomiting, fever, abdominal cramp. This most of us sure we may experience with this E. coli infection because it is present in our intestine. Sometimes because of food poisoning, this E. coli become harmful. Okay, next. Sexually transmitted bacterial infection. These at all I have added examples to clearly study about the clinical manifestation. Okay? Okay. Sexually transmitted bacterial infections are caused by harmful bacteria. Sometimes these infections associated with any symptoms, but can still serious damage to the reproductive system. Okay, you know, sexually means what? It targets the reproductive system. Common sexually transmitted diseases caused by bacterial infections include chlamydia. Chlamydia is an infection, bacterial infection in men and women, caused by an organism called Chlamydia trachomatis. Chlamydia increases the risk of pelvic inflammatory disease in women. Okay, so it increases the risk of pelvic inflammatory disease in women. Then gonorrhea is caused by Neisseria gonorrhoeae. Men and women can be affected by this bacteria. Syphilis can affect men and women, which is caused by the bacteria Treponema pallidum. Untreated syphilis may result in death, even though gonorrhea also results in death. Okay. Bacterial vaginosis, which causes an overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria in the vagina. You can see, we can feel itching in the vagina, means then there is the bacterial infection, which is called as bacterial disease. Fine. Next, some examples of bacterial infections includes bacterial meningitis, which is a severe infection of meninges, that is the line of the brain, that results in pneumonia, fever. Then otitis media, which infects the middle ear. Then urinary tract infection is a bacterial infection of the bladder, urethra, kidneys, or ureters. Then respiratory tract infections include sore throat, bronchitis, sinusitis, and okay. So these were the clinical manifestation, means objective or expression of specific diseases or illness by means of specific signs and symptoms. So here I have added some bacterial infections in human beings, and also it may be found in some animals, especially it is human beings, so you can study as well. Okay. Next, principles of diagnostic techniques. So now we have studied the bacterial genetics, and we also studied the genetic material present in bacteria is responsible for causing disease in the host, that means living organisms. So there may be the interaction between the host and host and pathogen. So now also we have studied the infection. Because of the interaction between host and the pathogen, there is a infection that results in infections. So now if we found some infections in our body, we will go for further analysis, diagnosis in the hospitals, right? So that's what diagnostic technique. So the clinical presentation of an infectious disease reflects the interaction between the host and the microorganisms. So diagnosis requires a composite of information, including history. History means like food history, parents' history, physical examination, radiographic findings, and laboratory data. Okay. Next, as we are studying about bacteria, what all are the types of specimens collected for identify this bacterial infections? You see, from the patient, now the patient was infected by bacteria, characters with signs and symptoms. Now he is about to undergo clinical diagnosis. Okay, that's what we are studying, the basic like bacterial genetics, and then clinical manifestations, and then principles of diagnostic techniques. Okay, so what are the specimens were collected for identifying this bacterial infection or infectious disease? Number 1, sputum. Number 2, blood. Then fecus. Suppose foodborne diseases means they will collect the fecus. Then tissue biopsy. If there is rashes in the skin, then they will go for tissue biopsy. Then if there is urinary tract infection, then they will diagnose in the urine. Then swab. For example, if we have infections in tongue, or if you have infection in this eye, they will take the swab specimen. Then some anaerobic samples. So these were some anaerobic samples, means like collecting liquid from brain, collecting liquid from spinal cord. Next, So this is the procedure for detection of pathogens. First, we have seen the types of specimens collected. What is the procedure for detection of these pathogens? Means we have collected the specimen now. Then it undergoes what etiologic diagnosis. Etiologic diagnosis like blood, urine, stool, cerebrospinal fluid, pus, secreta, etc. Next, they can undergo the procedure of examination of immune responses of the body to an infectious agent, that is antigen and antibody. They can go for direct examination or they can go for isolation, culturing and identification of bacteria by means of specific test. Then they will undergo for microscopic examination, antigen antibody reaction, then biochemical test, toxin production, then DNA test. So this much assay they can go and they can confirm the bacterial infection by those procedures. Let us see clear phenomena. Next, the main exam we have studied the flowchart now. So from that flowchart we have typed and classified here what are the methods for diagnosis of the bacterial infection. Number one, the specimen what collected can can undergo, can we take to undergo this morphological examination, how the morphology of bacteria is, so that which bacteria has infected in our body, what disease is there. So we can go for morphological examination. Number two, isolation, culture and identification. Sometimes it is difficult to identify the bacteria by morphology because Staphylococcus is also cockish, round shape. Streptococcus is also round shape. So we don't know to confirm whether it is a Staphylococcus infection or a Streptococcus infection. So for that we can go for further identification test. Then biochemical reaction. Then antibiotic test. Antibody detection. That is what hypersensitivity. Then nucleic acid assay. Nucleic acid assay is a DNA. Okay. Next. So what is meant by this? Just I have defined something. It's a, the coming slide, upcoming slide are very simple. Want to know just what they are doing there. Okay. I already explained, even though you want to know simple definition. Morphological examination can be done by non-stained microscopic observation, stained microscopic observation. Non-stained microscopic observation done by dark field microscopy, and here they observe the movement of living bacteria so that they can easy to observe the bacteria shape, structure and their numbers also. Okay. Then next, stained microscopic observation. There are many staining methods were used to identify this bacteria, like gram staining, acid fast staining, fluorescence staining, and methylene blue staining. Using these staining methods, they will identify which bacterial infection is that. Okay. Next, they will identify how to. They will isolate, culture, and identify the microorganisms. How I told that Streptococcus and Staphylococcus are cocky shaped, but we want to confirm whether it is Staphylococcus or Streptococcus. So they will go for antibiotic test, isolate and culture it, and then identify. Okay, this is used to identify size, shape, color, surface features, transparency, and hemolysis method of bacteria. Okay, next. Common test to identify bacterial isolates using biochemical tests. Like they will undergo indole assay. This we don't want to study in explained manner. Just to know what are the biochemical tests they are doing to identify this bacteria. What all are they? Indole assay, methyl red test, citrate utilization test, hydrogen sulfide production, urea hydrolysis, motility test, lactose fermentation, sucrose fermentation, glucose fermentation, and gas production oxidation. Next, so now we have seen the morphological examination, then what? Isolation, culture, and identification of bacteria, antibiotic test, then biochemical test. Under that biochemical test, we have studied some list of what all are the biochemical tests are available for identifying this bacteria. Here I have just added the picture. What they are doing in the biochemical testing, they are just adding some chemicals and they are adding bacteria. Then they will see the reaction. So according to the reaction, there may be the color changes. According to the color changes, they will confirm what bacteria is that, what bacteria infection is that, according to the guide of microbiology. Next, serological assays. Serological assays helps for identify antigen and antibody reaction. Detection of antibody in the patient's serum. Then current infection should be positive. IgM positive means then there is a multiplication of antigen is there, rise of antibody is there or not. Then this test they will do in the gap of in the space between 10 to 14 days. Okay, you can study only that. You don't have to. Next. So in addition to the serological test, there may be nowadays they are going for nucleic acid assay. In the current scenario for COVID-19, what they are doing is nucleic acid assay. Okay, because as it is COVID-19, it is a virus disease. It multiplies very fast and it have the incubation period for 14 to 15 days. So in that gap, they will identify the they may not confirm by using this. Reactions, but they can go for nucleic acid assay, but it is the virus. Okay, we have studied what bacteria, so bacteria can be diagnosed by that those methods. Where nucleic acid method assay can be done for virus and bacteria also. Fine. Now let us overview what we have studied up to now in this session. So in today's class, we have studied microbial physiology and pathogenicity from BMS 110 Biomedical Sciences Unit 2. Under this, we have studied 3 topics. One is bacterial genetics and pathogenicity. Under bacterial genetics, we have studied what is the genetic material of the bacteria and how it was discovered. It was discovered by 2 experiments. One is transformation and another is conjugation. Then we have studied clinical manifestations. Under that, we have studied what is meant by bacterial infections. What all are the types of bacterial infections? It includes skin bacterial infection, foodborne bacterial infection, sexually transmitted bacterial infection, and other infections also. Then principles of diagnostic technique. As there is a interaction of bacteria or pathogen and the host or living organisms, we want to go for further diagnosis for confirming what bacterial infection is that. So under that, we have studied the types of specimen for laboratory diagnosis and what are the methods involved in this diagnosis of bacterial infection. Fine. So here I am ending this session where we have studied microbial physiology and pathogenicity. Let us meet in the next session. I hope you have understood something more.